Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome back to another live stream. Hope you guys are ready to rock and roll and have some fun today. Welcome, and let's wait for everybody to get into their seats and get their notifications and all that good stuff before we really get started. Just wanted to give a shout out to everyone out there. All right. So welcome in, and let me know so far if you guys can hear me okay, if the music is on too loud, whatever, all that good stuff. And we'll fix them in case I need fixing, but I think we're good. But yeah, today's episode, we're gonna be talking about, well, let me see, we got their little hair there. Okay. Anyway, so in today's episode, we're gonna be talking about the fact that, why are there so many Americans that move out to Mexico and yet they hate freedom? Because out here in Mexico, one thing that I love about living out here is the fact that there is a lot of freedom. It's too much freedom for some people, but at least for me, a real freedom-loving individual, it's awesome. It's perfect, at least for me. But there's a lot of people out there that would consider themselves freedom-loving individuals, and when they end up moving to Mexico and living out here in Mexico, they quickly find out how much they actually hate freedom, or they might not even be aware what real freedom is. And then when presented with what real freedom is, they're constantly complaining about said freedom. All right. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Really, obviously we're going to go more in depth as we usually always do here. And of course, I'm going to be taking comments and questions from you guys out there in the audience. So shout out to you. But the reason I'm making this video to begin with is simply because this is something I talk about a lot here on the channel. The whole idea of freedom and living in Mexico and all that stuff. But I actually had somebody not too long ago leave a comment in one of my videos that basically, really hit the nail on the head. It really got me thinking. It really summed it up as best as I could sum it up myself. Again, better than I could have summed it up. But it all boils down to freedom. And so let me explain. So by the way, shout out to whoever left this comment. Hopefully you're watching this and, you can say, hey, that was me, because I forgot who it was. It was a while ago. I just do remember that I did write it down. And, because it was explained so good in such a short paragraph that I had to basically write it down for myself. As you guys know, I like to talk a lot, and so I'm trying to, get more meaning out of the words that I say. Therefore, even though I talk a lot, I want to make sure I can, give more information with all that talking, as opposed to, maybe sometimes even going in circles or repeating the same thing over and over again. But I digress. Basically, the comment said, real Americans hate freedom. And basically it was just the fact that, that's why many Americans, when they come out to Mexico, they really hate living in Mexico because of all the freedom that's out here. A lot of Americans, again, I'm not talking about every American. I would say maybe more of the modern American, which, by the way, I don't mean younger Americans, okay? Modern American, I just mean the typical American these days, which could be, Susan or Ruth or Karen or Bob or Greg or Johnny, that could be, as old as 68 or 78 years old, or as young as 18 years old. Okay, it's more of a behavior than anything else. And the typical American these days, okay, is more about, living in a place that is full of rules and regulations, and they love control. Again, you guys know this because you guys live in the USA. How many people, in the USA are Karens? And what are Karens? Those are just basically people that are, beyond rule followers, okay? They know more about the laws and the rules and the regulations than even the cops that they end up calling on you know. And again, it's not that they know it all. They definitely don't. But it's more about compliance. And there's many people out there that just love, to be compliant. They love to follow the rules. They love to follow the laws. They love to be, in good standing with all that. And then they hate individuals that don't follow this or don't subscribe to this whole situation. So this is why I'm personally, getting a lot of hate from people out there, because they're constantly saying to me, how come I'm doing all of these things that are, not in the rules or not in the regulations or not how they're supposed to be. And I always, again, I don't do anything illegal. It's not even about illegalness. It's more about, hey, listen, a rule is a rule, it's not necessarily a law. Or if this is a law, look, you got to read the law correctly, or you got to be able to interpret this correctly, and you got to know what it actually means, and so on and so forth. And so a lot of people out there in today's modern America, and this is not just in the US. I mean, it's you can go to Germany, you can go to Canada, you can go to many places around the world, and there's a lot of people that are like this. They're just sticklers, for the rule of law. And they're sticklers for doing things, quote unquote, the right way. Again, who is the person that even set those rules to begin with to dictate what is right or what is wrong? So, really, that's kind of like the whole idea here is that, a lot of people that come from countries, especially the USA, which is a very rule heavy, regulation heavy, law heavy nation. Again, where the typical American these days, they have to follow all the rules and the laws and all this other stuff. And sometimes they want to do this and sometimes they don't want to do this. But when they don't want to do it and then they see somebody that is not doing it and they're not getting in trouble, or no one is seeing them or reporting them to get in trouble, now they want to get them in trouble or want to report on those people. Again, act as a Karen, because it's like, hey, I don't want to do XYZ, so I'm doing it to be a good citizen. Why isn't that person doing it? That person now has to pay the price for not doing XYZ. And it could be as simple as, simply not cleaning up your own yard, or wearing a mask or not wearing a mask, or complying with, all kinds of arbitrary things out there that make sense or not make sense. And the reality is that most of these things don't make sense. It's more about control. We've talked about this multiple times before. And just going back to the comment that inspired this video and other thoughts in my head and notes, for me to make other videos to go forward here, was the fact that I even though it was right under my nose, and I think most of us kind of know this, sometimes you don't even see it until someone really points it out. But the fact is that, back in the day, a long time ago, the USA, believe it or not, was very freedom loving. It was more libertarian. It was more like, I'm going to haktua on these stupid ass laws and rules, because this is not, I don't give a crap about your rules and your laws and your whatever. The Constitution says this. The Bill of Rights says this. I know what I'm supposed to do and not supposed to do, and so on and so forth. But we've lost all that. That doesn't exist in the USA these days, even though there are groups of people that still believe this and think this way. But the minute they try to exercise those rights, or really try to, again, fight for that right to party. Anyways, for those people that try to challenge these rules or regulations or whatever, that basically trump over, your constitutional rights. Well, they find out. They fuck around and they find out. I was one of them. That's what my situation with Texas was. For those of you guys that know the details, don't know the details, but I challenged authority. I was confronted by authority that was doing illegal activities towards me, a citizen, and so therefore I challenged that. And by challenging that, well, that quickly reminded me that I don't even live in a free country, but I live in a tyrannical society. Okay? In which, again, rules for thee, not for me. That kind of shit. You know what I mean? So basically, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, not only do we live in the USA in a very tyrannical environment, but we live with a bunch of people, aka Agent Smiths from the Matrix, Agent Smith, all these people that are the Karens aka quote unquote, and they're the ones that are basically, if you do something wrong, they turn into Agent Smith to basically, turn you into the system, to turn you into the matrix, to turn you into the proper authorities. And so, as I've lived out here in Mexico, the longer I've lived here, the more I've realized that, yeah, a lot of that peace, the inner peace that I have, and the quality of life increase that I've had, and all these things that have made my life better, have been simply because of the lack of, again, excess rules, regulations, laws, Karens to enforce it, and all this other stuff. Because again, even the police out here, even if you are breaking a law, even the police have hard time enforcing said laws or said regulations or said whatever. And so, the people are forced to police themselves and take care of situations themselves and not rely at all on government or authority or anything like that. So it creates a different kind of environment as opposed to the environment that most people are used to living in the USA, in which anytime that they're bothered by anything, and this because you see this all the time, you hear it all the time. For example, how many times have you seen, like little TikTok videos or YouTube shorts or the Instagram reels or whatever you want to call them, but you see these little videos, or you see other kinds of videos of people. Again, these are funny videos, but they're not that funny, but they're funny. But basically, you see people that basically they'll go to McDonald's drive-thru and they'll order some chicken nuggets. They don't have chicken nuggets, and they'll either throw a fit, start fighting the McDonald's employees for not having chicken nuggets, or worse yet, they'll call the police. Yeah, that's right. They'll call. Hold on, I need the sound effect. I forgot this is live and it's not edited.
Bruh.
I have to manually add the sound effects. My apologies. Anyways, but they'll call the police, and they're sitting in the drive-thru, waiting, talking to the McDonald's employee, and the McDonald's employee is telling them that they don't have chicken nuggets or they don't have Szechuan, dipping sauce or whatever the hell it is, and they're calling the cops. And the cops are like, "What are you doing? Why are you calling us for this?" All right. Or, the arbitrary, or not the arbitrary, the selected use of enforcement of said rules or regulations or whatever. Look, I don't want to get into it right now because, I listen to a lot of YouTube videos out there, and, there's something going on right now, where they're doing some protests. I don't want to get into it. They're doing these protests out there, and they're allowing a lot of illegal activities to happen, just simply because they fall on one side of the aisle that they want kind of protected. But then all of a sudden, if you're riding your scooter, on the road, and your scooter just happens to go over a rainbow sidewalk, and by mistake, you mess up that rainbow sidewalk, you're probably going to be felony charges, and you're probably going to get arrested. Again, I'm not condoning anything here, but come on now, Give me a break, that at worst that should be a fine, but and we're living in kooky world, and the thing is, it's that even right now, this is why, by the way, real quick, let's just do a quick shout out. This is why I have my other channel, okay? On my other channel where I get to, by the way, don't forget to hit the likes. Thanks for subscribing, all that stuff. But this is why I have my other channel, so I can talk a little bit more freely about the insanity of clown world that we live in. Because on this channel, I gotta, to a certain extent, watch what I say, simply because, there are some of these people that I'm talking about in this video are in the comment section, or watching me live, or watching this later on. These people that, again, they don't want to hear the things that I have to say about living in Mexico, because they have set in their mind that they're going to just move out here to Mexico and act a fool. Listen, I watch and I listen to other YouTubers that live in other parts of the world. And for example, let me just give you a quick example. There's this YouTuber, I forgot his name, some older gentleman that lives in Thailand. And he talks about, things about living out there like I do, and saying how expats, how Americans, it's not necessarily Americans, okay, but expats, meaning people like us, foreigners, okay, foreigners coming from the US or Canada or Europe, and they go out there to Thailand, and then they do a lot of horrible things because they know, or they think that they can get away with these things. And what do I mean? For example, they'll go, wake up in the morning and they'll go to the bar, the local cantina, the local watering hole, and they'll get drunk. They'll start drinking and drinking and drinking until they're drunk. And then, the establishment is closed, and then they go home, and then they get on their little scooter, okay, and then driving drunk, okay, from point A to point B, and then causing all kinds of accidents or causing all kinds of injuries on themselves and causing all kinds of things. And then all of a sudden they get in a bad accident and they're probably knocked out, and they're in the hospital, and nobody has any access to anything in order to help these people out. Or even worse, they get in an accident, nothing happens to them, but then they kill, some Thailandese, family, simply because of their, how they behave. And I could go on. And yet they're out there as well trying to enforce, certain ways of life or rules and regulations that they might be used to from where they come from, and then they go over there and then they act a fool. And so it's kind of like the same thing happens in Mexico. We have a lot of foreigners that come out here, again, mostly Americans in Mexico, that come out here and do the same thing. They want you or the locals to now start following all these rules and regulations and laws and customs that don't even belong in the area, that come from their home country. And at the same time, they go on ahead and they don't respect the customs, the culture, the people, the laws, the rules or regulations that are, here locally. And it's just, things like that. And so, eventually as time goes on, the locals, the people that live here, they themselves, they start pushing back, and they just don't want to deal with this anymore. And so, for example, in a country like Mexico, one thing that we've talked about multiple times, and we're going to keep talking about, is the fact that how Mexico is getting expensive. And again, expensive for who and expensive for what? What kind of expenses? What are we talking about here? Let's boil it down. And so I've talked about it where you can live out here for $1,000 or $1,500, and some people say that's not enough. And I'm making one of the video on Sunday is going to go more into detail, talking about that, as to giving you the explanation as to why that's not enough for certain people, because, now I add, a few other things, to that budget. Like if all of a sudden you want to live in a nicer house and you're not paying $300 in rent anymore, you're paying now $900 or $1,000 in rent. Well, now you're paying more. If you get yourself a car and you want to pay a car note, that's going to cost you more. If you want to start getting insurance, not just for your car but for yourself, and that's going to cost more money. And then before you know it, now you're spending $3,000 to $4,000 to live out here in Mexico, which is on par with what you might be spending in the USA. Now, of course, you're going to get higher quality stuff out here for that amount of money, but it's still going to cost you money. And so, and the thing is that you might not be able to afford it. You might not be able to afford Mexico anymore. But guess what? Mexicans can afford Mexico. Other foreigners with money can afford Mexico. And do they need your broke ass here in Mexico? No, they don't. Do they care if you're here? No, they don't. Do they want your 5 pesos, stupid ass, tip? That, or what I'm saying, like the tourism dollars? No, they don't. They got rich tourists that are more than happy to pay, to play. And so, and so as Mexico's economy and the culture and everything just keeps getting better and better and better, more sophisticated, better technology, better quality, everything. And where you're coming from, your currency is worth less. Your attitude is shittier than usual. And I could go on and on. Your attitude of entitlement is worse than normal. And all of a sudden you're now coming out here to Mexico and you're demanding a certain, level of service, or you're demanding a certain price range for certain things. Listen, they don't need to cater to you anymore. And they're not. So as things get better out here, and in the economy, the less and less they're going to be needing or relying on you or your money, and therefore they're going to be putting up with your attitude and your way of life even less. Right now a typical Mexican might still laugh off a dumb gringo doing dumb things, but that's getting, less and less every single day as more and more Mexicans are like, man, I don't need this. I don't need the aggravation or the assault or the insults or the 500 pesos that this guy is trying to pay me for something that's really worth 1,500 pesos, and I could go on and on. So it's that is wearing thin. And so as the situation in the USA is getting worse and more people are wanting to come out here, more and more people with less and less to their name, less resources, less money, less everything, and they're moving out here, and then they're expecting things, to be catered to them. Listen, it's not going to go well. It's not going to go well for you guys because, again, the Mexican doesn't even need that anymore, all right? And the Mexican doesn't want to put up with that, and the Mexican is growing tired of that entitlement and that attitude and all these negative aspects of foreigners. Not all foreigners, but some foreigners that come out here. And just like in the USA, for example, all the immigrants that are coming into the USA, sure, there's a lot of immigrants that are great. But it only takes a few bad apples, right? It only takes a few bad immigrants to all of a sudden, put a stain on all immigrants. So what makes you think it's not the other way around? That all of a sudden a few bad apples that are more and more each and every day, these bad apples that are coming out here to Mexico, all right, that look like you, act like you, they're you, okay? Bunch of other gringos that are coming out here with that sense of entitlement, and now they're giving you a bad name. Now they're all of a sudden now creating this bad kind of mojo and bad atmosphere for all the others that might be coming out here with good intentions, because there's a lot of you guys out there in the audience that come out to Mexico and you are, helping the community. You guys are really good neighbors. You guys are really, there's a lot of us that come out here and we participate within the economy. They love us. We participate in the community. We do all kinds of things to basically assimilate and integrate into society. But there are, as more and more stories of more and more bad gringos acting badly in other parts of Mexico, as more of those stories continue, well, guess what? There's going to be, an increase of people not liking you just simply because of the way you look or the way you talk, because immediately they might hear you speak in English and they're like, there's another one of those. You feel me? Instead of, oh, look, there's another gringo. That's great. Hopefully we get a few more here and we can make some more money. As opposed to what is starting to turn into is like, another one of those with, more attitude and, coming. I don't want that guy coming into my store and demand this or demand that or, not speaking any Spanish and acting. So, and there might not be a you at all, but first impressions, are going to be, probably a little bit more difficult now. So just kind of want to, put that out there because, all these Americans that are, modern Americans, the ones that hate freedom, that, again, they love rules, regulations, laws. They love to control people, control others, all these individuals, that are more and more every day, they're coming out here. And you are probably escaping some of these individuals only to quickly find out that they're out here as well. And not only do you not like them, but Mexicans don't like them either because they have their way of life. They have their way of doing things. They got their culture, so on and so forth. And now, there's people that are coming out here and kind of demanding a certain behavior from people. Which, again, think about it. Think about an immigrant going into the USA and demanding of an American to act a certain way. That's not going to go well. Don't get me started on that whole conversation. But you already know it's not going well, okay? All right, let me talk to the chat. I see there's a bunch of you guys that left some messages. So I want to give a shout out to everyone out there watching, everyone in the chat. So shout out to Parker, shout out to DG, shout out to Ultra, shout out to Tanya, New York Native, Sandra, Public Service for the Truth, JLD, Fox, Chingon, everybody. All right, let me see. Sandra says, I have been researching Mexico for a possible move. I will be driving there if I decide to make the move. Would that be an issue? No, it wouldn't be an issue, but you need to do your homework. You gotta make sure you know what route to take and where to go and how to do all this stuff. So I've made videos where I've interviewed people that have made that trip. There's other YouTubers that have also interviewed other people that have made that trip. Also, a big resource that you can use if you are driving in Mexico, meaning you're driving from the US into Mexico, or you live in Mexico and you're driving around Mexico. There are groups on Facebook. Basically, they're called On the Road in Mexico, or versions of that. Okay, so here, I'll type it into the chat so you guys can, okay, join these groups. Oh, Facebook. But anyways, there's tons of Facebook group. Facebook is a major thing out here, so please use it. Use it to your advantage. Okay, that's the thing that everyone uses out here. So, but on Facebook, you're going to be able to join some of these groups or other groups, and basically in those groups, you can even ask. It's like, hey, I'm going from Hermosillo to Acapulco. What road should I take? Or I'm thinking about taking this route. Is this okay? And they'll let you know. They'll be like, well, look, there's road work on this one. There's a blockage, a protest on that one. This one is good road. This one has traffic. This one, whatever. And they'll let you know. They'll help you, guide you. Or look, take this route. This route's a little safer, a little better because it's not going through the mountains. Whatever. All right. So use that to your advantage, and then plan your route, and try to stick to the toll roads. Okay. Don't get off the toll roads unless you are going a certain direction. But the reason is just because, they're better maintained roads, and you're definitely not going to have any funny business on any of those roads for the most part. And that's it. You know what I mean? And also on those roads, in case something happens, you can even, call the Green Angels, okay? And the Green Angels are basically like roadside assistance, okay? And they'll be able to help you out of, say you get a flat tire or, whatever. Okay. So hopefully that kind of helps. But yeah, just do your research and all that stuff. But it shouldn't be a problem. It's not what, in my opinion, it's probably more dangerous in the U.S. these days. Getting stopped, by a police officer and probably getting kidnapped in the middle of nowhere. Like it happened to me. So JLD, let me see. JLD says. I said, oh yeah, there you go. Okay, so you were answering the same question. Okay, so yeah, okay, same thing I said. And then yeah, when they say don't drive at night, the reason that they say don't drive at night here in Mexico is only because there's not as much lighting, okay, as there are on the highways in the USA. So, just for safety purposes, because the thing is that Mexico is full of speed bumps in the worst possible spots, potholes, animals, people. Yeah, you'll be on the highway in the middle of nowhere, and there'll be, people on bicycles. There'll be animals on the road. There'll be, all kinds of shit. Okay, so it's just it's not to say that you cannot drive at night. It's just a little bit more dangerous because of the hazards. Okay, not because of the cartel. Again, no cartel is out there trying to, kidnap you to steal your measly Social Security check. Okay. So just, again, I got to quickly remind people of that. Again, it's not to say that there are not any bad guys out in the road, but that can also happen in the USA. All right. So it's not as, it's not dangerous, as people like to put out there. Okay. Let me see. Hold on, let me read a few comments here. I want to go through the comments since I'm always telling you guys I'm going through the comments and then I forget. Shout out to Lodak in the house. Hopefully the music isn't too loud there. Ecuador Husker says, hi. From Ecuador, we escaped the clown world of Ecuador about 8 years ago. We love the people. We love this place, but I think it's time to move on. Mexico is definitely in our sights. Awesome, awesome. Brown Girl Invest says, I have made the drive twice and literally just completed my drive from Atlanta to San Miguel de la Allende yesterday, and I have been fine both times. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Yeah, Thailandese. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know. Public Service of the Truth says, how you say that if most Mexicans get $300 a month? Most Mexicans don't get $300 a month. Most Mexicans get more than that. If you are just a remedial employee in Mexico, let's say that you are working for Walmart or 7-Eleven or, again, McDonald's or whatever, there's just a remedial job. You're getting paid around 10,000 pesos a month, which is equivalent to $500 a month. Okay. But that's just remedial. Again, most people, obviously, have better jobs than that and they pay better. So minimum wage really is like around $500 a month. And it goes up from there. And especially these days, where more and more Mexicans are making more and more money. And so this is why a lot of them, they might just work at McDonald's for a few months just so they can earn enough and save enough money. And then they'll just put their own business selling sandwiches or selling tacos. And eventually they make a lot more money selling tacos on their own watch, being their own boss, having their own business than they would ever earn at some remedial job. All right. And then, people that are professionals, again, same thing. They either get a really high paying job with a good company, or they can just, start off their own thing. So, but no, a Mexican that's making like $300 a month, they live in a pueblo, in a village, in the middle of nowhere. And that, again, is plenty of money, because once you go out to the middle of nowhere, again, money is worth less and less because things are not as expensive. Okay, they're not as expensive, and it's not as expensive to live out there, where you get to live off the land and the small community. Basically, you got your whole a small little ecosystem, capitalist ecosystem, in which it all kind of functions within each other. Right? It gets more expensive the closer you get to the city, and obviously, until you get to the city center, which is probably the most expensive, right? So, and so again, I've talked about it before about that one, about what you need to live out here. Again, it's all depending on you and what you're used to and what kind of a lifestyle you want to live. For many people, $1,500 a month is not enough. For many Americans, it's not enough, because they have a certain standard of living that they want to maintain, and that's going to cost money. It's as simple as that. And basically, if your standard of living is not as high as a typical American, in fact, your standard of living is closer to what a Mexican's might be, then yeah, you can definitely live on $1,500 a month. Okay, so it all depends on you. It depends on many factors. But like I said, even a typical Mexican professional, they're making around that a month, maybe more. And if, like, let's say it's two people, making that, husband and wife, they're both working and they're both making over $1,000 a month, they're doing really well. All right. So, oh, shout out to Parker with a $2 super chat. Thank you very much. Shout out to you. Much appreciated. Thank you. Thank you. Let me see. That's right. Sergio Corona says Mexicans are very respectful of each other, and Mexicans expect the same from outsiders. And I think that's one of the things that is lacking in the USA these days. The lack of respect for your fellow man or woman, the lack of morals. All these things, the fact that, dignity doesn't even exist for many people. And so obviously they come out to Mexico where, a lot of these things are still very important. A lot of this education that you would get from your family, from school, from church, from whatever, they're alive and well out here. And so it is expected of you to behave accordingly, basically behave like an adult. And so that's a problem too. It's like there's a lot of people that are coming here from the USA, and they basically, they act like children. And in Mexico, that just doesn't fly, at all. You know what I mean? So that's another thing, is the fact that out here in Mexico, most people, they at the very least, act like adults. And respect each other, and you don't have to agree with them, but you can agree to disagree, and all this other stuff. And so when an American comes out here and they even lack these basic things like respect, that's when things, go hog wild, because it's like you could have a disagreement with anybody. Life happens. but you still got to be able to respect that person. And so in the USA, people disagree all the time, but there's no such thing as respect. The whole respect thing is out the window, and they just go straight into insulting each other and acting a fool and all this other stuff. And that just doesn't, that doesn't work out here. It's just not acceptable. And it's not just here, but most countries around the world. And so, that's the problem. That's why so many Americans, for the most part, they're not liked in many areas of the world, because this is not a problem that's only unique to Mexico. It's basically, it's a problem that's unique, to anywhere where there's a lot of foreigners coming from the first world, and now all of a sudden, trying to impose their ways on the local population that doesn't accept any of this, period, end of story. So that's a major, major component to it. Thank you, Sergio. Mexico Beanpole says, my English-speaking Mexican handyman told us we were the good gringos. Yeah, that's right. We immediately knew what he meant because we've seen these entitled Americans in action. Yeah. And so, a lot of times when you're getting that gringo price, from a handyman, a lot of times it's just because you're getting charged extra just simply because they got to put up with your attitude. They got to put up with your ass. All right? They got to put up with, the entitlement. And so on and so forth. Because a lot of times, I'll even have someone do some work, or hire somebody to do XYZ, and they're able to do it very quickly and efficiently. And they basically, sometimes they don't even want to charge me or charge me very, very little. And I got to go out and be like, hey, no, here, I'm not going to accept that you're only charging me 100 pesos for that. Here, take 200 or 250, buy yourself, your daughter some lunch or something, like, come on now. It's things like that. Like, that's the thing too that a lot of Americans don't understand, is that because of the lack of structure when it comes to the whole capitalist system out here, people get to charge whatever they want. In fact, the only ones that can't really charge what they want are, let's say that you go into a corporate store or just a store, just an actual brick and mortar, establishment. Okay. And they have the prices listed. Okay. Then, they cannot fuck with that too much. They can't go above and, they can't charge more for XYZ services, because you can actually call Profeco on them. Mexicans do this all the time. They'll call Profeco on you. He's like, hey, why are you charging me 500 pesos? It says 350 pesos here. Oh, but we changed the price. It's just that we didn't update. I don't care. You have to give me the price that says on the thing. Otherwise, I'm going to call Profeco on you, which is like the Better Business Bureau. And trust me, they go hard out here, okay? And most businesses are deathly afraid of Profeco. But I'm talking about regular businesses. I'm not talking about the informal economy. So, So Mexico is made up largely of an informal economy. And that informal economy, it's informal. So there is no Profeco. You can't sue them. You can't, none of that, so it's more of buyer beware. But on top of that, they get to dictate what they get to charge you, like it or not. So this is why you got to talk this stuff beforehand, and make sure you come to an agreement, beforehand, as opposed to later on where, you just let them do the work and you never even really ask them, how much it's going to be or anything, or get an estimate or anything like that, because then they're just going to make up whatever they want. And but yeah, long story short, you'll get a lot of times you'll get that extra price, which again, I'm just calling it gringo price because I'm talking to you guys out there in the audience. But I've mentioned it multiple times, and it happens to all of us. It happens to my Mexican wife. She's born and raised out here, and again, she'll go to certain places, and all of a sudden they'll want to overcharge her just because she's a woman. And she can't do anything about it. And then I'll go, and then I'll get a different price. And I'm a foreigner. I'm a Cuban. Again, I'm not going over there speaking English. Yo voy allá hablando en cubano, so I'm not. Ya yo tengo un acento diferente. So right off the bat, I'm talking in Cuban. I have a different accent, a different attitude, but I'm a man, I'm a this or whatever. Now all of a sudden, that's what's going to dictate I get a lower price. Simply because, I'm coming in there with an attitude and I know my laws and I know my whatever. So it's like, don't be giving me the run around. Either you're going to, you want to do this work or not. If not, I'll go hire somebody else. So it's many components to all this. A lot of people just lack. And so that's another thing too, I think that a lot of Americans have trouble with when they come out here is because they're used to a certain standard or a certain, standard, where most everyone has to follow all these rules and regulations and laws, and no one can really go around that. You'll get in trouble. But that's not how it is in Mexico. Again, Mexico, it's all these things are arbitrary, and they're more like suggestions than anything else. And so, the more you have to lose, meaning the bigger of a corporate entity you are, well, the more likely you're going to have to follow these rules. But the lower you are on that totem pole, again, you just have a little taco stand or you're just selling clothes at the local flea market, come on. You make up the rules as you go along type of thing, all right? So, and see, look, there you go, Sergio Corona. Thank you so much for that. Sergio says, my car broke the belt on the highway and the Green Angels came and installed a new one for free. I mean, come on. Who does that in the USA? Are you kidding me? So, yeah, just FYI, all right? That's another thing, too. When you encounter things like that out here, you realize as well, like, how things are much better out here. Because, like, for example, in the USA, you're driving down the road, on a highway, and the same exact situation happens. The most AAA is going to do, the most... some sort of government agent version of Green Angels, what is it? I forget what they're called. But anyways, the same kind of version of that comes to rescue you or help you. Really what they're doing is that they look at, they might not even look at the car, but if they do look at the car, they'll be like, oh yeah, your belt broke. Would you like me to take you to a mechanic? Would you like me to tow you to a mechanic? If you got AAA, it's free. Anything else, you got to pay for it. Okay, and then once you get to the mechanic, well, you already know. The mechanic knows that you're in a desperate situation, so they might overcharge you now, just to get you that belt on your motor. And then they're going to tell you all these lies about how difficult it is and da-da-da-da. While in Mexico, basically, they'll change that belt for free on the side of the road. But it's just something that they can do. All right, so... yeah, it's just little things like that. There's just so many little things like that, all right? Sandra says, are there regulations to set up your own business in Mexico as an expat? Yes, I have a video talking all about business on my channel. So, again, here, let me give you guys a quick little how it works, okay? So, here's my YouTube channel, okay? And on my YouTube channel, right now, okay, you see all the way at the... hold on, over there, there's like a little, right here where it says store, right next to store, there's a little magnifying glass. You see, I clicked on it and it said search. Okay, so what are we going to do? We're going to type in business. Okay. And then boom, you're going to get all the videos I have on small business or whatever. Okay. So right off the bat, you see this video right here. Okay. How to start a business in Mexico, informal business as a foreigner, everything you need to know. All right. So that's for you. Okay. You can watch that video. Sandra for more information. All right, let me see. Turn my volume up, please. Okay, does anyone else need me to turn the volume up? Or can you guys manually turn the volume up on your own speakers where you're at? Let me know. See, that's another thing too I've learned after doing so many, live streams and videos and stuff like that. If the sound isn't right, everyone will let me know the sound isn't right. When I don't hear anything, that's good. When I don't, hear anything from you guys on the audience, that's always a good thing. If I just get one person, Mr. Donald, telling me he can't hear me, that means that Donald needs to turn up his volume. Public Service for the Truth says in Spanish, en cuanto a cifras, el INGE señala que la mayor parte de los mexicanos reciben un salario promedio de 7,300. Okay, so basically, what you're saying there, okay, is that the official government stats say that the typical Mexican makes around 7,300 pesos, which is around $360 or less. But those are the official government stats. The reality is that most Mexicans, again, 75% of Mexicans function within the informal economy. And informal economy simply means I'm not paying taxes. And not just I'm not paying taxes, but it also means that you are not reporting anything to the government. So everyone that has a small business, cash only, not reporting, not paying taxes, those people are not counted. And if 75% of the population falls somewhere within that informal economy, well, then those numbers are very skewed to the downside. All right, because even someone that just has a regular job and they're making, let's say you're working at Walmart, okay, or at anywhere like that, again, McDonald's, and you're making around 7,000, 7,000 or 10,000, because 7,380 might be after taxes, okay? So let's say they get paid 10,000, take the taxes out, they're getting paid, net, 7,380 pesos. That's not enough. So what do they got to do? Well, they got to make money elsewhere. So for example, I got a lady that, lives a couple blocks from here, and she works a remedial job, but her side hustle is that she's a seamstress. So, whenever we need, to put a button on, or I got to fix a hole in my shirt, which I have plenty of, look at all these, look how poor I am. I got holes in my shirt. Can you even see them? Yeah, whatever, who cares? I know, too much information. But the point is that I'll send it to her and she'll fix it for me. And that's her side hustle. All right. So on the weekends or whenever she's not working, she takes that time to do tailor work. Okay. She'll put on a zipper, fix some holes, put on a button, whatever. And she charges whatever for that. Other people do things like, I'll take care of the animals, or I'll walk some dogs, or I'll make food, and they sell it on Facebook. Like, hey, this weekend I'm going to be making tacos from blah, blah, blah. If you guys are interested, here's the location, my number, my this. And then, some people do it on a regular basis. So they might have a regular 9 to 5 Monday through Friday job. And then everybody knows that every Saturday, Doña Juanita is going to be at the corner selling tamales, because that's her side hustle. And so she'll sell tamales on Saturday nights. So and I could go on and on. And so none of these people, the seamstress, the tamale lady, the guy that, is fixing your computer, the guy that's, doing, like building you, doing the handyman work, or someone that's building you a shelf, none of these people are counted in the official Mexican numbers. Okay. And because why would they? Why? Again, it's a whole complicated thing. But it's like Mexico makes it extremely difficult for you to even integrate into that. So even if you have a small business and you want to pay taxes and you want to do things the right way, they make it extremely difficult for you. And since there's no real penalty, there's no real enforcement, there's no real way for them to track any of this, that's why just people, act this way. And since living in Mexico has a different kind of attitude, again, what we were talking about earlier in the show, that a Mexican that is doing things the right way and paying their taxes, for example, right? They're not going to all of a sudden go on and tell on or report on other individuals that might be selling tacos on the side of the road, that they're not paying their taxes. Okay, even if they wanted to, there's no real way for them to really, report it, and there's no real way that the authorities can enforce it. So there's a lot of things like that. That's why, again, a typical American will come out here and be like, "Oh, I cannot eat from one of those taco stands because there's all the rules. They don't have hygiene. They don't have the." We're in the USA, they got all these rules, regulation, licenses, blah, blah, blah. And yet, people get sicker than sick all the time at the Hong Kong, Chinese buffet, So whatever. Anyway, so it's just things like that. You know what I mean? It's just like many little things like that. That's why. Think about it. If Mexico right now, okay, not reporting 75% of the actual economy within Mexico because of what I just explained right now, and with that being said, Mexico is like the 11th strongest economy in the world. Well, imagine if everything was actually reported. How strong of an economy would Mexico actually have by the numbers? So that's why, I mean, even in my estimation, I feel like Mexico is one of the top economies in the world right now. Okay. And most of it is underreported or not reported at all. All right. For too many reasons. Again, like I said, it's not just what I said there. There's even more to that to add, but I don't want to keep, harping on that. So again, trusting official numbers, when it comes to, reporting income in Mexico, no. You can't go off of that. And look, it's the same thing in the USA. A lot of people don't understand that they don't report the right numbers out there anymore. In the USA, for example, they might say, oh, we have a really good economy because we have the lowest unemployment in history, for example. But they don't count the fact that, those are just people that have recently lost their job or in between jobs, whatever. But like, it's like if you have not worked for like 6 months, you're not even counted in those stats anymore. Okay. Also, they don't count the fact that now back in the day, a typical American only had one job. Now, most Americans have 2-3 jobs sometimes. So yeah, lowest unemployment. That's because, you have 3 of those jobs. You kidding me right now? So, and they're taxing you on everything over there. There's no way you can get out of getting taxed, okay? They tax you on everything. And then they tax you on the money that was already taxed. And then they tax the tax of the tax. And I mean, that's living in the USA, right? So it's a different world. And even out there, it's not reported correctly either. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, they fudge the numbers. If you take away, I think, the top, 10,000 earners, the top 10,000 U.S. citizens earning money in the USA, oh my God, you don't even want to know. You don't even want to know how poor America is. And so it's like artificially inflated, just like in Mexico could be artificially deflated. I don't know, you see that fly, right? There's like a fly around here. It must be one of those CIA flies, trying to keep a track on me of what I'm saying. Anyways. Joseph says, have I tried using a humidifier? No. Are you kidding me? Right now it's like 95 degrees with like 60% humidity. I don't need humidity. I don't need any extra humidity. I don't need a humidifier, okay? I don't need any extra humidity. It's already bad enough. When you live in really, really hot weather, you need an air conditioner, okay? An air conditioner is because right now it's 95 degrees outside with humidity, okay? That's why you need an AC. A humidifier is not going to help you with that, as far as I know, okay? So, just reading some comments here. Yes, Sandra. Yeah, so for anyone out there that wants questions answered by me, okay, and you cannot find it, yourself, in your search, please do this, okay? Like I said, let me, show you again real quick. Again, you just click on the search, okay? Right here next to store, okay, you click on the search, okay? And just type in, residency. All right, boom, okay? So just, search anything, okay? Work. Okay? So use that to your advantage, guys and gals. Pepperoni Pizza says, we Mexicans hate taxes, but love street food. In Mexico, tax evasion is considered a sport. Thank you, Pepperoni Pizzas. Yeah, and that's the thing. And so, like, think about it. A typical American that is law-abiding and, fearful of government and the IRS, and I got to pay all my taxes, and I got to make sure I don't mess up my taxes, and I got to make sure I follow all the rules, and I got to make sure that I don't break any laws, and I got to, okay, so think about it. Now, you're those individuals moving to Mexico, and they're the ones that are also harping on, how come, people are not paying their taxes? It's like, what taxes? What taxes? There are no taxes to be paid. It's not what you think it is, so yeah, I mean, thank you, Pepperoni Pizzas. I really appreciate that comment. That really is, Brian in Mexico says, it's not tax evasion if you don't make enough to report, which most little tacos or any other food truck stands won't make enough. Again, it's not, they don't have the same rules as the USA. Out here, you got to report everything, but it's, again, they got to, okay? So, and yeah, a lot of people do fudge the numbers, to make sure they don't make enough. And again, if it's cash only, how are they going to be able to track any of that shit? So I can go on and on, all right? But it's a different system. Like Pepperoni Pizza put it the best way possible. Okay, out here, it's an extreme sport, okay, that everyone participates in. Look, let me give you another example. When you go to a doctor out here in Mexico, okay, a typical doctor, it doesn't matter if you go to the nicest, most expensive hospital in the city, or you're going to Dr. Simi. Most of them, in fact, 90% of them are going to demand, they're going to want cash, okay? Cash, because if they pay with the card, if you pay with a card, that means they got to pay taxes on that. Okay, but if you're paying cash, the doctor is not reporting everything. And remember, a doctor is someone that would be someone very high in society. Oh, they're not going to lie about their taxes. They're going to do the right thing. They're going to no. Okay, a Mexican doctor is Mexican, and like Pepperoni Pizza said, it's the same thing, okay? If he's a Mexican, then he practices the extreme sport of tax evasion, okay? So that's it. It's as simple as that, you know what I mean? And by the way, don't even get me started on the whole tax situation. I am one of those that believes that taxation is theft. Like our forefathers in the U.S., thought. I mean, that's the craziness, okay? Again, our forefathers in the USA literally went to war with the British Empire, okay? The strongest, most baddest ass empire on the planet, all right? And they went to war with them because of some dumbass 3% tax on some tea. And we went so hard, okay? Against Britain, that not only did we win that war, but we don't even fucking drink tea in the USA anymore. Everybody drinks coffee, okay? And that was like some minimal bullshit tax. Yet in today's America, modern America, Americans are getting taxed, 33% at the very lowest, and it's actually a lot more than 33%, but 33%, and a lot of Americans, especially some Americans out there that love communism. We're gonna do it right over here, whatever. Anyways, a lot of Americans are asking for more tax. Like, hey, can you tax me more so I can send more money to another country or whatever? So, again, our modern USA is nothing like original USA, okay? So, again, we went to war, for even mentioning a tax, hundreds of years ago, and now today we're begging, okay, to get taxed even more, all right, over bull crap, all right? So, no, I mean, don't even get me started, all right? But, and then what are they doing with that tax? Again, if they can just print money again, taxes are different in other countries. I'm just talking about the U.S. for a minute. But if they can just print money out of thin air, why are they taxing you? If they can just print $1 trillion like that, send billions and billions to other countries like that, and if you see how much they actually collect in taxes, why are they taxing you again? Yeah, it's called control, okay? So they can, again, take more of your money, make you work harder, and give you less money. All right. So yeah, anyway, so yeah, like yeah, Mexico's a very different world. You know, that's what these are the things that I love about Mexico. The fact that, you know, again, they're not anti-tax, they're not anti-government, they're not anti, but yeah, they're anti-bullshit. You know what I mean? And you know, they're not, you know, like look, you want me to pay taxes? You know, a typical Mexican. You know, that's a doctor or a taco salesman. Okay, you want me to pay taxes? Come enforce it, and I'll pay. All right, and that's it. Oh, you're not going to enforce it? I'm not going to voluntarily give you money. You know what I mean? So that's it. You know, these are the things I love about Mexico. The fact that they actually practice common sense out here for the most part on a regular basis. All right. All right. So let me see. Let me see some more comments here. Oh, awesome, Sandra. Glad you enjoyed that video. Let me see. Let me find that video. Do I have it here? There it is. Here's that video. Hold on. With the guy making his sip tea. Okay. Thank you, Sandra. Appreciate the kind words. New York native says, however, I have had the experience of my rent being raised because of impuestos. Listen, again, this is a straight up lie, okay? They're basically giving you a reason, okay? You know, as to why, you know, they're raising your rent, okay? That's all it is, all right? They're raising rent because they're raising rent because, you know, it's happening all over the country. It is what it is. And so, yeah, they're just, you know, they're probably nice. You're probably nice to them, New York native. And so, obviously, they're just, you know, they want to raise your rent. So, you know, they come up with some bullshit excuse like, oh, you know, the property taxes have increased. It's like, how much have they increased? 500 pesos for the year? You know what I mean? Like, or 1,000 pesos for the year? You know what I mean? Like, it's, you know, so how much are you raising my rent? 20 pesos? Oh, you're raising my rent 500 pesos? Anyways. So, yeah. No, I mean, look, it happens to me too, okay? And it happens to people I know. It is what it is, okay? That's the thing. Remember, we're living in an open capitalist system out here too. So, it's, they don't have like, they don't have things like they do in the USA where they have like caps on rent increase or, what's the word I'm looking for? Rent control. Rent control? Is that what it is? You know, they don't have rent control here. You know, you kidding me? You know, they can raise the rent from 5,000 pesos a month to 25,000 pesos next month. What are you going to do? You know, again, unless you have like a contract, okay? But outside of that, oh, you don't like it? Oh, sorry. Sorry to see you go. Bye. But yeah, I mean, that's what it is, you know? It happens. Awesome, David. Shout out to you, David. Thank you, thank you. Claudia says, not paying taxes in Mexico is a crime too. Just ask owner of TV Azteca as a billionaire being forced to pay millions of taxes being evaded. Yeah, look. That's what I'm trying to get at right now. Again, like I mentioned that already in the live stream in case you just came into the live stream right now, Claudia. But I was saying earlier, you know, the bigger the business, the more likely that you have to pay your taxes or else. But because they can enforce it. It's a lot easier, you know, to be able to enforce on, you know, again, a giant corporate entity like TV Azteca than it is to enforce this on the local taco person. Okay, so like I said, I already talked about this a little while ago, but again, all you're doing is adding more fuel to my fire and adding even more validity to what Pepperoni Pizza was saying. You know, we're basically, long story short, even the giant corporate entities out here like TV Azteca, which is like CNN, all right, even they don't pay their taxes, and the government has to come after them to force them to pay taxes. And, what does TV Azteca do? Oh, okay, yeah, sorry. How much do we owe you? 10 million? All right, here's a check. Bye. Thanks for playing. That's it. You know what I mean? So, again, it's very different. Very, very different. Where, in the USA, you really cannot get away from tax evasion. If all of a sudden you're just a regular citizen and you don't pay your tax willingly, or you do some shady things willingly, listen, man, they're going to throw your ass in jail and throw away the key. And you could just be a peon of a citizen. And if a major corporation doesn't pay their tax, oh boy, is the U.S. government, going to go after your ass. So, yeah, again, this is why in the USA, since there is a lot of enforcement towards that, you'll see that like a large corporation, they'll have like 15 tax lawyers on staff, and their job is to make sure that they pay the least amount of taxes. Okay? And same as a typical citizen, being, regular, normal, low-level, blue-collar job out there, or whatever thing you do, you better make sure you do your taxes and pay your taxes and act accordingly, or they're going to come after your ass, okay? Your poor ass can also get audited and thrown in jail for missing, dotting an I or crossing a T, or, not paying $10, whatever, all right? So, yeah, no, it's a different universe out here when it comes to taxes. So, do Mexicans watch Univision out here? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't really have a TV. I haven't not owned a TV probably in 10 years, to tell you the truth. And I definitely don't really watch TV out here. But, for example, we were just in Guadalajara a few months ago, and when I was in Guadalajara, I paid when I was in Guadalajara, in the Airbnb, they have a TV, so I watched the TV. I watched the local TV, the local news, the local whatever. And one thing I noticed, not just Guadalajara, but Oaxaca, Mexico City, wherever I travel to, they don't have Univision out here. I don't see Univision, but I think they have it. I'm sure they have it. Maybe if you got to get cable, I don't know. But it's not like in the USA. In the USA, they got Univision and they got Telemundo, which Telemundo is now owned by NBC. But I don't think they have either out here. I think out here, things are produced by TV Azteca, for example, or other, Mexican-owned stations, and then maybe they'll rent out or lease out or sell some of these things to Univision or Telemundo. But I don't know. I don't know how it works out here. That's a good question. But come to think of it, last time I saw Univision was in the U.S. So, yeah. Yeah, so, Elizabeth, what she says, she goes, big corporate USA doesn't face a tax burden. They get all the tax breaks. Again, for people that don't know, let me just give you an example. Okay? This book is the tax code. Okay? This book is the tax code. And really, this is how it works. Okay? The first couple pages, like these pages right here, these pages, these first like 10 pages right here. Okay? This is showing you, okay, what you need to do to pay your tax, okay? And then the rest of the tax code in the USA is how to avoid to pay your tax. So that's why big corporations, they have like 15 tax lawyers on staff, because, they follow these rules, and then they go, okay, now let's look at all these other rules so we can see how we can avoid to pay tax legally, okay? But again, the poorer you are, the lower you are on the totem pole in the USA, you don't have access to any of that shit. In fact, you work a job in the USA, they take the tax right out of your paycheck. Same thing happens in Mexico too. This is why a lot of people eventually, again, they're working at Walmart and they're getting paid 10,000 pesos a month. And then, when they take the taxes out of their check, okay, it comes out to like 7,000 something a month. And they're like, man, what is this? This is terrible. I can earn 20,000 a month selling tacos in front of my house, and I don't got to pay taxes, and I have it cash in my pocket immediately. All right, and that's what they do. So, by the way, this is the book in case you guys are. But this is the 5th time I've bought this book, okay, in my life, okay, since this book has come out. I've damaged a few, I've lost a few, but this is my book, okay. I have it for research purposes, okay? So for anyone out there that's curious, what might be on deck, all right? Because you know me, I'm always doing things. I'm always making, content and doing all kinds of different, whatchamacallit? Like I always have different kind of projects, okay? In fact, speaking of which, for those of you guys out there that love to listen to me and hanging out with me, and you want to hear more about what I have to say in fact, this is today's video. Okay, Biden relieves himself after Kamala takes over. Okay, so this is today's live stream. So if you guys are interested and you guys want to hear my thoughts on that, if you guys like comedy, you guys want to laugh, you guys want to have a good time, all that stuff, please feel free to check out my live stream later on today. I go live, as soon as I'm done here. So go check that out over there. All right. Jose Unleashed. This is my latest project, but I got more projects on deck coming up. But yeah, it's just me talking, about, all kinds of insanity that's happening out here in the world on a regular basis. All right. Oh, Sunshine says we don't like Univision or Telemundo here in Mexico. By the way, I got a feeling that there's a bunch of you guys in the chat or listening to me right now that are actually Mexican living in Mexico. So, quiero hacerles una pregunta. Yo estaba pensando en hacer un canal en español. Quizás algo similar a lo que estoy haciendo ahorita. O sea, querer decir, cosas en vivo, hablando las realidades de lo que es vivir aquí y todas esas cosas, sino las mismas cosas que ya yo más o menos hablo, no solo en este canal, pero en el otro canal y todos los otros canales. So, para cualquiera que está allá en la audiencia ahora y está interesado en yo hacer un canal de ese tipo en español, por favor, déjame saber en the chat para ver si lo voy a hacer o no. Creo que lo voy a hacer, no sé cuándo, pero ya lo tengo ya aquí en mis notas para el futuro. Anyways, I'm just speaking in Spanish to my Spanish-speaking audiences. I got a feeling I had a bunch of people out there in the audience, that are watching and listening to me right now. So I just figured, let me talk to them, ask them a quick little question. And, there we go. Sergio already was C. All right, awesome. Hells yeah. Okay. Presidente Jose. That's right. Yeah, no, I'm glad. By the way, I used to hate making thumbnails. It's still not fun. It's still work. But still, it's hilarious, to make some of these thumbnails. But yeah, so like I was saying in Spanish, I'll be talking about things like this because I know there's a lot of people out there like right now, you guys are Mexican and you guys want to know more, for example, about the USA. So I could talk about the USA and what's going on over there and maybe even give you guys more insight as to why so many Americans are moving to Mexico in Spanish as opposed to in English. Probably be a lot easier to talk about these things a little bit more. So yeah, because for the longest time, people have been kind of telling me to do this, but I just never did because for many reasons, a lot of personal reasons, and a lot of times, a lot of it had to do with just me and my Spanish. Yeah, stupid ass fucking robocalls. Anyways, okay, cool. I'm probably gonna be doing something like that. Haha. Ok, public service for the truth, you get it, ok. Sí, porque esa es una de las cosas porque estoy interesado en hacerlo en español también, porque hay ciertas cosas que quiero hablar y quiero hablar con ustedes, porque es que también es bastante interesante que tenga una audiencia bastante grande que nada más que habla español o mayormente hablan en español y bueno, hay muchas cosas que quiero hablar con ustedes y hablar con la audiencia en español que no se traducen correctamente o mi audiencia en inglés no me va a entender o no le importa y viceversa. So yeah, okay, cool. All right, I'm definitely going to be pursuing that at some point soon. Okay? Yeah, I might just call the channel Jose Arteaga en Español, some crap like that, and then just do whatever. Basically do things like what I'm doing right now. Do things like what I'm doing on Jose Unleashed. do some of the vlogs, do some of this, but just making Spanish content. A lot of Spanish content, okay? I think that's one of the avenues I'm going to be pursuing not too long in the future. Oh, awesome. Okay, good. Yeah, because that's one thing I've realized, which I thought, for the longest time that most of my audience was English speaking, only English speaking. But as the years have gone on, I've quickly realized, oh, wow, there's a lot of Mexicans, like real Mexicans, or people that are Spanish speaking from other parts of the world that listen to me. They listen to my content and they put up with my English and they put up with my whatever, and they still watch and they still listen and they're still interested. So why, my native language is Spanish. So why not, go down that route and start making Spanish content? Again, similar but different content. But long story short, you already know how I do with all the things that I do. So should translate pretty well. Why is gas so expensive in Mexico? That's a great question. The reason gasoline, okay, we're talking about natural gas and gasoline. Okay, the reason natural, one at a time, Jose. Natural gas. Let's start with that. The reason natural gas is actually extremely inexpensive or cheap in Mexico is because there's an excess amount of natural gas in the USA and they export it to Mexico at a discount rate. Now, why is gasoline, petroleum, whatever, diesel, why is that extremely expensive in Mexico? Okay, this is something, this kind of, this is why the new government are such a threat to outsiders and a threat to, the world powers and all this other shit because of things like this. Okay, so in the past, first of all, Mexico is a very oil-rich nation, okay? On par with Venezuela and the United States, okay? But again, really good crude oil comes out of Mexico. And for the longest time, Mexico basically was doing a really good job managing that. But I want to say like 30 years ago, 40 years ago, they mismanaged it, all right? To the point where the system they had set up until recently is that they allowed U.S. companies to come into Mexico, all right? And basically what they do is they extract the oil, okay? They take the oil out of Mexico, they ship it to the USA, they refine the oil in the USA into diesel and gasoline, and then they ship it back into Mexico. And so obviously that adds all this unnecessary added cost, therefore why it's so expensive. But one of the things that AMLO, the last president did, remember we got Claudia Sheinbaum in power now. But one of the things that she did, one of the things that he did was that he built a refinery to be able to refine that oil. And I think they want to build more refineries, but they want to concentrate on building refineries so that they don't have to ship the gasoline. They don't have to ship the oil to the USA to get refined. Instead, they can just ship it to another part of Mexico, refine it, and then take it to the gas station. And so now all of a sudden they take that element out of the process, which is, again, take it to the USA and bring it back. And so obviously that's going to bring costs down exponentially, but it takes time for all that to get implemented. Okay, so that's kind of like what's happening there, and that's why it's so expensive. But it should be, honestly, it should be gasoline in Mexico should be fairly inexpensive, but it's still expensive. And if that refinery was not built, or or Mexico would not be building refineries or heading in that direction, then gasoline right now would be even more expensive, okay? So plus, there are other factors in the world that Mexico has no control over that dictate the price of gasoline and all that right now. And so since Mexico is still not able to be self-sufficient on oil production, again, producing the oil and keeping it in Mexico, since they're not, they don't have that tight yet, they can't really dictate the price either. the prices, what OPEC and other oil producing nations kind of put out there. And, that's one of the reasons why Mexico's oil, system or whatever, oil production, whatever, kind of failed many years ago, because basically when there was a giant boom before the 70s, everything was hunky-dory. They were all raking in the money. But as soon as that oil crisis happened in the 70s that affected the U.S. as well, oh man, from that point on, they mismanaged everything and it was just down the toilet. So, and again, I'm just kind of giving you a quick overview of the situation there. Obviously there's a lot more detail and a lot more information that I don't know, because I don't know everything on that subject, but that a lot of it has to do with that. Okay, so I hope that makes more sense. But from my estimation, in the future, as time goes on, gasoline should be getting cheaper. But again, if all of a sudden we go to World War III, so again, there's many things that kind of dictate that price. So yeah, oil crisis, exactly, Virginia. You know what I mean? You already know the oil crisis. You know what I mean? That they create. So anyway, so yeah. By the way, if I do a Spanish channel, Spanish content, I'm still going to be making the stuff that I make right now. This is just added on to that. And I have multiple channels. So I got this channel. I had my original channel, which is dead, and I can't really do anything on anymore because I got one too many strikes for speaking too much truth over there. I got Jose Unleashed. I got Cooking with Jose, and I had a podcast with somebody else, and so on and so forth. And so this would be, I guess, my 5th channel, maybe, But channels that I actively produce content for right now, yes, it would be my 3rd channel. All right. Let me see. Elizabeth says, may we have subtitles in El Nuevo Canal, por favor? See, look, that's the thing. It would be a lot easier for me to just make content on one channel, and then that subtitle thing would be so good that, again, it would just translate to Spanish or to English, but it's not. And in order for me to translate, it costs money. I got to pay somebody to do that because I don't have the time. It's very, very time consuming, and I just can't do that. It's just too much. So it would be a lot easier for me to just, again, do English and then do Spanish. And then there's just certain things that, I can only explain in English, and there's only, English related stuff, and then things in Spanish that are only Spanish related stuff and things like that. So that's the idea. But yeah, I just thought of that, like, basically the other day. I was thinking to myself as I was, sitting here doing some work and, just doing some research on some other things. And I was like, man, when the time is now. I got to do it now. You know what I mean? And it's only because I am now ready to do something like this. Again, this has been something that, even my own family members, have begged me to do this because, again, they don't speak English. So they would love to hear what I have to say. So obviously I would have to do it in Spanish. So okay. All right. You guys have given me that last little kick in the ass, the last little push that I really need to do it. All right. So I will do it. All right. Hopefully I'll get it up and going before the end of the year. So, just give me some time. I got a lot of things on my plate at the moment, but yeah, that's the next, that's probably going to be the next thing. Okay. But don't worry, the minute that I get that going, I'll let you guys know here on this channel. And we're going to do, like we've done on the other channel, where it's just I'm going to constantly keep telling you and reminding you of it so you guys can go over there and check it out and so on and so forth, all right? So, and then, yes, of course, for many of you guys out there that are trying to learn Spanish, it would be great. It would be a great exercise to join me over there. Because, I'm not speaking Mexican Spanish. Yeah, I've learned some Mexican phrases and Yucatecan words and mannerisms or slang or whatever, but I'm Cuban, and so I speak Cuban. And even though I've lost some of that, you can't lose it all. You can't take it all away. So, yeah, it's going to be a lot of that, and it's going to be, coming from that perspective, from a Cuban from Miami living in Mexico type of thing. So that's, American and lived in the U.S. So it's going to be interesting. Oh, awesome. See, look, public service for the truth. I thought, your native language was English and that you just learned to speak Spanish, but it seems to be the other way around. Seems like you, like me, you learn Spanish and then English. So interesting. All right, let me just read a few more comments and then we're gonna start wrapping this bad boy up because I gotta get to my other channel. Yeah, so the subtitles, those are not in my control. Subtitles for the most part, they come automatically. Like right now, you're watching this live and you have an option to have subtitles. Closed captioning right there. There, right there. So anyways, same thing, will be available in Spanish. But it's not up to me, it's up to YouTube and the technology. But I think it's fine. I think it'll be able to handle it. But yeah, that would be good, to be able to, to help you guys with Spanish. Because I know there's a bunch of YouTubers out there, English-speaking YouTubers, they have their own channels and, they got their own thing about speaking in Spanish and trying to teach you guys in Spanish and yada, yada, yada. And that's great. I mean, that's great. That's gravy. That's awesome. That's amazing. But that's not what that channel, my channel is going to be about. I'm not here to teach you Spanish, I'm just here to talk in Spanish. And for me, that's a great, from my understanding, that's a great way to really learn a language and immerse yourself in the language is to, actually have a conversation in that language and try to understand in that language. Or look, like how my dad learned English, by watching Police Academy movies and, watching, movies like Rambo and Chuck Norris and, Delta Force 38 and all that shit. I used to watch all that stuff with my dad when I was a kid, and he used to watch it because, back then there was no subtitles or, dubbing, to that extent. So he used to watch like Delta Force or, whatever movie, man. Whatever those 80s, action movies, were. And it was all in English. But again, there's a reason why he loved action movies. My dad was like me. We love to read and watch documentaries, and all that kind of shit. So with that said, the reason that he would watch those movies is so that he can learn English because, it wasn't like there was a huge dialogue, in most of these movies, So it would be easy for them to pick up and learn English from watching a movie like Police Academy or Rambo or whatever it was. So, yeah. But yeah, anyways, so, all right, guys, I'm gonna start wrapping this bad boy up. Okay. So yeah, sorry, I'm just reading the chat, see if there's anything worth repeating, and I think that's it. So, all right. Anyways, guys, I want to give a big shout out to all of you guys out there. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Thank you so much for joining me today, as always. By the way, before I forget, since I got you guys here, I should have mentioned this earlier, but remember, next Thursday, this Thursday coming up, okay, I am having Jose Novello on the show, okay? Everyone's favorite lawyer, okay? And we're just going to do another open-ended, question and answer session, okay? So, if you have any questions for Jose Novello, the lawyer, the Mexican lawyer, then please get him ready, all right? And make sure to show up on Thursday when he comes. Now, again, granted, let's not forget, sometimes, he has things pop up because he's a lawyer. He has to do things, sometimes emergency. So, sometimes, so again, just kind of be on top of, okay, look, hold on. Let me just show you. It's easier. All right. Go to the channel. Okay. Go to my channel. Come on now. Sorry. Okay. Go to my channel. Okay. And throughout the week, next week, okay, on Monday, Tuesday, whatever, start checking my channel and you'll see right there or probably a little below down here, in the live streams, and you'll know exactly when the live stream is going to happen. Because again, we're pushing for Thursday night but we don't know. Again, things could happen where it might be Wednesday or it might be Friday, whatever. But it should be next Thursday. So next Thursday, we got Jose Novello on the show. So get your questions ready. And we're going to be talking about, the fan favorite things, like, the R&E program residency. So we'll have him talk a little bit more about that, even though we've already talked that to death. But I feel like more people need to know more about, getting your residency easier than, providing $7 million in funds, to a consulate. So, we're going to ask him about that. We're going to ask him about a bunch of other things. So please, again, get your questions ready. If you have questions that you want asked, okay, and you might not be on the show or whatever, leave them in the comments on the bottom of this video. And you know me, I read all the comments and I try to answer all the comments. So again, leave your question, and I got my notes here, okay? Because it will be a lot easier for me, to have questions already laid out that I can ask him, and then we go into the audience. So again, if there's a question that definitely hasn't been asked before, especially, please leave it down below in the comments after this video goes public, and then I'll make sure to ask him those questions, okay, when he comes on. All right. If I don't ask a question, it's because I've already answered that question before in another live stream or question and answer session or video or whatever. Okay. So remember, we got him on, and so he comes on. He's going to be on 6. It's going to be 8 o'clock Eastern time. Okay. So it's going to be Thursday, 8 o'clock Eastern time, PM next week. He's coming on the show. All right. And same thing for Unleashed. I got to figure out when I'm going to be doing next week's show. If I'm going to do it on Thursday, if I'm doing it earlier, if I'm doing it on another day. So stay tuned for that. Again, if you listen to Unleashed, if you're going to be joining me later today in about 30 minutes over there, then please, by all means, go on ahead and stay tuned, to that channel as well. Again, hit the bell icon if you're subscribed, all that good stuff, all that helps you get notified. But sometimes YouTube doesn't send the notification on time. So this is why just kind of, if I'm going to go live Thursday, 8 o'clock, well, to show up at Thursday at 8 o'clock. All right. Just to give you an example, same as most of you guys out there in the audience, I go live, basically at the same time every Thursday. So, I'll be here. Okay. Unless something happens. All right. So we got Jose Novello coming up next week. All right. So please stay tuned for that. Get your questions ready. If you have some you want to, get a head start on, leave them down below in the comments, and we'll go from there. And that's it. I think that's it, guys. I think we're going to wrap this bad boy up. So you already know the deal, guys. If you like this kind of content, don't forget to please like, please subscribe, please share, please hit the bell icon. But more importantly than anything else, please stay awesome. Thanks again for watching. Thanks again for hanging out. See you guys on Sunday. See you guys on Thursday. See you guys in 30 minutes or so. And see you guys all over the internet. I'm trying to spread myself like a venereal disease, all over the internets. And again, stay tuned for the Spanish channel. Stay tuned for everything. All right. I got a lot of things down the pike. All right. So thanks again for watching. Love you guys, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye, guys.